Hey, awesome people. My beautiful guest today is Jonathan Goldman, who is, I guess, one of the original pioneers in sound healing movement. What an amazing person. What a beautiful soul. And I love this conversation with him today. We not only get into his journey, which is absolutely fascinating. Of course, if you're a fan of my podcast and tune in regular, you would know that I love tapping into the people behind what they do as well and what brought them here to this point today, which is amazing. And also we get into the power of sound and some of his own techniques, and there's some practical components to this podcast too that we can apply in our lives immediately. So I have no doubt you will enjoy today. If you do, of course, let me know in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're iTunes, Spotify, hit a like button, subscribe button, any kind of button that's going to help us continue to get these conversations out there and reach more people, which genuinely very passionate about. So that is much appreciated. And of course, if you're in Australia and you want to actually experience the power of sound and meditation, come and join us. We run one-day workshops up and down the east coast of Australia. Plus, we obviously run 3 and 5 night retreats, which are very immersive as well. All that can be found in the links below. Enjoy this podcast with Jonathan. It's awesome. Much love, and I'll see you soon. Beautiful. We are recording. Jonathan, welcome to my podcast.
Guy, what a blessing it is to be talking to you and anybody who's going to be watching or listening to this in the past, present, or future.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, it's funny. I've contemplated about reading bios out at the beginning of the podcast and things like that. But what I find even on my own podcast or when I listen to others, I want to just jump to like, let's get into it kind of thing. So I end up asking this question. If a stranger stopped you on the street and asked you what you did for a living, what would you say?
Well, listen, my friend, I have to tell you that that's going to shift and change from year to year, day to day, and level of consciousness to level of consciousness. But as an overall gestalt, I'd say I've been on this path of working with sound as a healing and transformative modality for about 40 years. And my purpose is to reawaken to the planet and to the people on this planet the uses of sound and music as positive tools for evolutionary acceleration.
Amazing. And I wanted to, obviously we want to dive into sound today, but do you find in that period of 40 years that people are awakening to the potential of sound? Have you noticed a shift in that time?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Yes, indeed. Mind you, when I began doing this in the late 1970s and early 80s, and I would say to people that I was basically researching sound music for healing, they'd go, what? And now, if you like, sound healing is about where yoga was 10 years ago. And now yoga is on every street corner, and sound healing is beginning to be, and I'm going to suggest as an overall gestalt that yoga is a whole lot more than what's found on most street corners, and there's a whole lot more to sound healing than what is found these days. I love it, but once again, yoga is more than, if you like, another word for aerobics.
Totally. You know, it's interesting on that topic. When I look back, being the ex-Welshman rugby playing kind of guy that never saw a yoga studio till he was nearly 30, in terms of on a street corner, you know, I had no idea when I stepped into it, but what it did do, because I was doing a yoga class in a gymnasium in the middle of the city that I think didn't really have the essence of yoga, but it actually opened up, I guess, a portal into that world, which then led me to start to look into it behind. So it was actually great exposure. And I was grateful for that yoga class, even though I guess it wasn't, it was like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, two things, Guy. First of all, we'll talk about it, but one of the things that I really focus on these days is the hum as being a sound, because it's all inclusive. And therefore, if you can just get that first step in there into any sort of accelerated consciousness or experience or vibrational shift or healing, that's great. But also, now, do you know the meaning of the word yoga?
I don't.
Okay, yoga basically simply is a Sanskrit word meaning union or to yoke, which is union with the divine. That's actually what it means to yoke with higher levels of consciousness. Most people don't, and they perceive that yoga is simply another word for what are called asanas, or movements and, different positions. That's one of 8 major paths of yoga. One of the most predominant paths of yoga is called Shabd Yoga, and which incorporates sound, as well as mantra yoga. One is listening to sound, and mantra yoga is making the sound. So sound is a huge part of the whole yogic phenomena.
Amazing. And you're triggering so many questions already. So obviously with sound then, and you mentioned a key point that I'd never thought about before, is actually making sound and listening sound. Already.
Stop. There are 2 different ways that sound affects us. The first is called psychoacoustics. That is where the sound goes into your ear, into your brain, affects your nervous system, your heart rate, your respiration, your brain waves. So anytime we listen to sound, whether it's music or the voice, we are being, on one level, psychoacoustically affected. And this is why, on a level also, one of the easiest ways of working with sound as a healing modality is simply through the conversational voice. I'm going to keep going. And the second phenomena is called vibroacoustics. And that's where sound goes into the body, into us on a cellular level, on a molecular level, affecting us down to our DNA. That's vibroacoustics. And if I were to suggest to you that that's pretty much right now still unexplored phenomena, science is basically working with how the brain is affected by listening to sounds. But vibroacoustics is very powerful. I'm going to give you a quote from the New York Times science section, February 8th, 1988. Got a lot of 8s, so I remember it. And it basically says, sound shaped into dazzling tool can make, break, or rearrange molecular structure. And then the second part of that is, and levitate objects. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we probably will not go into, but I'm just saying that there are 2 major ways. So I really like to tell people, okay, sound affects you through your ears, it affects you through your body. And that's really, really important. Okay, going back on. You have the question.
So no, I'll keep going with that then, because then if you're using your voice, you talked about the hum earlier, but if you're using your voice, there's a sound that's being created, a vibration that's being created, right?
Do you know what the most powerful vibroacoustic sound that we can make is?
Well, from the voice.
The hum.
The hum.
The hum. Now, here we go. We're going to play a game. I'm jumping all over the place. I haven't even told you any cool stories, and I've got so many cool stories about my life and all that stuff, but just getting into the hum, and then we'll get back in. We'll entice anybody who is watching, listening, or resonating with this to go, oh, but the hum. So when you hum, there are just a couple of things. My wife and I have an award-winning book called The Humming Effect. And when you hum, we call it conscious humming. So there are 3 or 4 things that we say that you want to do when you do conscious humming. One of them is you have to hum on just one tone, because if you're doing zippity doo-dah or whatnot, the frequencies are moving all around. So if you're going, you can hear that's just one tone. Number 2, you got to have your lips closed. If I go, you can hear, then the sound is going out. And part of that is being, if you like, the sound energy is being not lost, but it's being dissipated into the air. But the third one is to do it in a level where it's comfortable for you. A lot of people are teaching, we're going to find your sound for you. We're going to find the tone that's the best for you. You know what it usually is? It's right around in your conversational voice. There's a reason why your conversational voice, if you've cleared yourself, is at a certain level. Now, so with this in mind, I want you to do a hum, and I want you to pinch your nose. You got to make sure your lips are closed. If your lips aren't closed, then you're not doing a hum, right?
Okay, so lips closed, humming, nose pinched.
Yeah, start humming and then pinch your nose and tell me, and let's see what happens.
Mm.
Okay, Guy, tell us what happened. You can't hum if your nose is closed.
You can't hum, exactly.
And I say, okay, if you didn't know that, most people don't know that. I say, do you think there's some other things about the hum that perhaps I can basically enlighten you with? But isn't that hilarious? So that means that all the sound that is being created is in the nasal cavity, and which is why, therefore, it's the most powerful vibroacoustic. Because once again, if I go, this is a great sound going out, I can go, but a lot of that sound energy is going out. Here, it's being totally self-contained. Yeah. And being when you get the release of all sorts of crazy things. You get the release of melatonin. You've probably heard of that. You get the release of, you get a reduction of heart rate, respiration, brain waves go down. You get oxytocin being generated. You get all sorts of things, including, and here's maybe the hippest, is you get the release of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, and I'm sure that you know all about that in terms of opening up your circulatory system, and it is also an antiviral agent, which means that if you hum, it'll get rid of oftentimes some of the nasty critters that lodge themselves in the nasal cavity first before they go into the body. So when you hum consciously, as we talked about, and you do it about 4 or 5 times, and then you got to stop and wait a couple of minutes for the nitric oxide to regenerate. You get 15 times the amount of nitric oxide that is being normally generated, even if you do what is called nitric oxide breathing. Pretty interesting, huh?
Fascinating. So would you recommend humming, obviously on a daily basis then?
Totally, man. I've been doing this for a long time, 40 years plus, and I've gone through everything from harmonics to Tibetan deep voice to tuning forks to crystal bowls to X, Y, Z, and I use them all. But I have a humming practice with my wife, and it is just a wondrous thing because you know what? Once again, I'm initiated into all sorts of different traditions. And I know all sorts of really major mantras and all sorts of things, but which makes me way cool. But at the same time, I'm not here to stand on a pedestal and go, hey, look what I can do. My purpose is to bring sound to the planet and the people. And this means bringing and creating the most all-inclusive sound. And that, Guy, is the hum. Because out of all the sounds that I've worked with and I've taught over the years, people oftentimes have issues with their voice. Whether it's because, this is before they had American Idol or The Voice or any of these things where we go judge and look for the best voice. People just really, they're very, very fearful and judgmental about their voice. But I've never encountered anybody who says, oh, I can't hum good. So humming is, that's the reason my wife and I were going, okay, what is a sound that everybody can make? The sound that everybody can, babies, the elder, everybody, people hum when they feel good. They just do. Unconsciously, they hum. What is the sound that is all-inclusive? And we looked at each other, we went, and then we wrote a book called The Humming Effect, which somewhere around here I can actually hold on for a second. Watch this. And it's only because it's such a cool book that I wanted to bring it to the attention of the audience.
Beautiful. I'll
And
make
it is
sure there's
actually,
links as well below if people want to order a copy, for sure.
and it is, it's an award-winning book and a bestseller and all this stuff, but I'm just so happy, and it's being picked up by so many different people in terms of humming. Because once again, and here's the do. We were talking about yoga before, right? So in yoga, there is a very, very, very old yogic book, thousands and thousands of years old, is Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It's basically the whole book that the phenomena of yoga is based upon, is this one book called the Yoga Sutras. And my wife and I were teaching at a place that was Swami Satchidananda's ashram. And I have a resonance with Swami Satchidananda because I am a child of the Woodstock Nation. I was at Woodstock. And Woodstock began with Swami Satchidananda leading 500,000 or more people, probably were 1.5 million, but wow. That's just together, chanting together some mantras. And boy, if I can just suggest that may have been the thing back when I was, 19 or 20 years old that, caused me to go, this is real. But we're down close to 30 years later at Swami Satchidananda's ashram. Maybe more, actually, because Woodstock was a while ago. And there is his translation of the Yoga Sutras, because every good guru has got to do their own translation of the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali's. And I just opened it up, and the page I opened it up to was Sutra 1.27. And Guy, it basically said, and this is Jonathan Goldman's remembrance of Swami Satchidananda's translation, but it said something akin to the original sound of creation was pranava, the humming of prana. They had to give it a name, so they called it Om. So the sound of the hum became so the Om came from the hum.
Huh. Wow. So talk to me then about sound. If sound is creation and we are creation experience itself, that's how I see it, then what do we do? And I'm thinking of everyone here, because obviously I work with someone with sound as well, and I've got my own kind of interpretation, but I'd love to hear you share, because we're in a stressful world. I feel like our bodies are constantly out of its natural resonance, if it's natural harmonic tune, or however you want to frame it. So then, because you talked about psychoacoustic, vibroacoustic, sound we're hearing, sound that's encroaching the body. What is going on? Are we creating a re-resonance back to our natural self? Is that what happens when we work with sound? How do you kind of view it all?
Sure, you could just simply say we're putting ourselves in tune.
In tune.
And for each of us, I like to believe that our intunement is a little different. Listen, Guy, I'm going to jump now. I can't help it. I'm just, I love teaching sound, and I have some stuff that I want to share. And I do love talking, telling you stories, et cetera, but I want to tell you about what we call the 4 pillars of sound healing.
Beautiful.
And this actually comes from my one of my earlier books called The 7 Secrets of Sound Healing. But I just took 4 of them there. I actually was guided to work with these 4, and I hadn't remembered, and turned out they were the first 4 secrets of the 7 secrets. But the first one is that everything is vibration. And, we talked about that there are 2 different ways that we work with vibration through hearing and through then the psychoacoustics and through vibroacoustics, right? That's the first one. The second one is intent is powerful. And this is something that is hugely, hugely important. It's back in the 1980s. I got a master's degree from Lesley University researching the uses of sound and music for healing. And at the time, I had a pile of papers. This one, we still had paper. Pile of paper about Yo-Hi. And I had been basically researching all these different systems that work with using sound for healing. And I come from a family of doctors. Father, grandfather, and brother were all doctors. And I thought, okay, pretty good develop a left brain. I'm going to basically be the first person who has put all this stuff together and correlated everything. And I'm going to have the sound of this for this and the sound of this for this. And this is dating me. I'm sitting in front of a computer that's got a DOS operating system. The screen, you're going, what? The screen is dark. The letters were amber color. And here I'm trying to write and put in information. And there's this amber kind of gold cursor that's flashing on and off, waiting for me to put information in it. And I'm going through these papers, and all of a sudden I realize that Spiritual Master A is using a particular set of mantras for the chakras, and Spiritual Master B is using a completely different set of mantras for the chakras. Or Dr. X is using a specific set of frequencies for one organ. Dr. Y, completely different set of frequencies for the same organ. I'm sitting there in a state of intellectual angst, going, how can this be? How can this be? Oh my God. And all of a sudden I hear this inner voice, and it says, it is not only the frequency of the person making and receiving the sound, it is also the intention of the person making and receiving the sound that creates the effect. And I wrote on this computer the words frequency plus intent equals healing. I'll say that again. Frequency plus intent equals healing. And another way that I look at it now is sound plus belief equals outcome. But once again, what is the consciousness? What are you trying to encode upon the sound? And oftentimes that is what you're going to come up with. And for me at the time, I was interested in healing. So it'd be frequency plus intent equals healing. So that is the, second, if you like, pillar, is that you got a question. Okay, sir.
So does that mean, because, you click on a sound website, people listen to this podcast will probably then get ads coming up to them, meditation with this frequency for this organ, or, to the sun, or whatever it might be, right? And you get the different hertz.
Right.
So does that, and the way you listen to them or look at them, it's like, oh, I'm just going to lay back and listen to this, and it's going to heal me. But what you're saying is that everyone is unique, and if we don't bring the intention in behind it.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that one even yet. That's the next one. But let me just suggest to you that I think that it's not my belief system that there are keynotes of frequencies that are more healing than others. I think that's a wonderful marketing tool. And there is a whole phenomena of people who believe that certain frequencies, hey, I'm listening to this at this frequency, and therefore, if they believe, therefore, that they're going to get that response. Do you know how hard it was when I came up with frequency plus intent equals healing and trying to talk to these doctors and whatnot? I say, have you ever thought about the importance of intention? And now you got people like Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, or Joe Dispenza, The Placebo Effect, or Masaru Emoto, showing that you can change the crystalline structure of water molecules with intentionality. And all of a sudden people go, oh, okay, yeah, that's there. So just if you have a belief that a particular sound is going to have a particular effect, Blessed be, but it's not in my belief system because I don't personally want to limit the different gods and goddesses to specific frequencies. Mantras are different. Mantras and frequencies are not particularly the same. But to say that, a certain frequency, I could go into this in a really big way, but I would just tell you that it's a brilliant tool for making money is if you convince people that a specific frequency is going to have a specific effect. I've done that just as an experiment, and people go, whoa, this is great. And I wouldn't say, well, I don't want to say, hey, it's not necessarily the frequency you think it was. I was just doing it, an experiment to see what would happen if you thought it was, because it doesn't matter.
Beautiful.
And that's really on a level as much of a truth as I've been able to, ascertain in terms of this. Now, that doesn't mean that two harmonically related, for example, tuning forks that create a sonic field. I'll just do this. And you could hear that and you feel that I could go into a long rap about the fact that, yes, these have been scientifically demonstrated. It's the 2 to 3 ratio or the perfect fifth. Yes, sir.
So you had, I'm just explaining for everyone, even people listening, you had 2 tune-in forks that you tapped, and then you said there was a sonic field.
Right.
Because I saw you hold them either side of the microphone then, right? So
right,
yes.
The
sonic field.
But bottom line, it doesn't matter. As long as these are in the ratio of 2 to 3 or 3 to 2. Doesn't matter, but the field is created by the ratio of 2 to 3, and it doesn't matter what the individual frequency of the tuning fork is. The field is created by both of them, or they're harmonically related. So this could be an X frequency, and this could be Y, but if it then creates the 2 to 3 ratio, then you get the field. Does that make sense? I just did really advanced physics of sound. And this was all known about by a guy by the name of Pythagoras. Many.
It makes complete sense, but then it does trigger the question.
Yeah.
So then, by having the X and Y, or the 2 different tuning forks creating a sonic field, creating a resonance, and then that is the field that is helping us come into resonance if we use it on ourselves. Is that what then happens?
That's it. And then if you project, and particularly, look, one of these.
Project intention with it.
Right, exactly. One of these is going to be fine, but it's, if I go, you can hear that a little bit, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
But if I go, you can feel the difference, can't you?
Yeah.
And just as a big thing, getting back to ancient Egypt, you remember they had the ankhs?
Yes.
Throwing a lot of stuff at you and probably at your audience too. And let me get back to the third pillar of sound healing. First one is everything is vibration. Everything is vibration. The second is intent is powerful. Third one is we are all unique vibratory beings. And I always ask when I'm doing a workshop and I speak to people, I say, okay, how many of you are allergic to penicillin? And anywhere, guy, from 5 to 20% of an audience are going to be allergic, sometimes even a lot more. And I say, okay, if you think that everything is vibration, then penicillin is a frequency or a composite frequency. It doesn't much matter. And for 80% of the people, it's going to be healing. But for 20%, it's going to be toxic. Think of that as a metaphor for everything. I personally have never encountered any sort of supplement, product, or whatnot that works for everyone. Have you?
No, makes complete sense.
So therefore, we need to honor what works for each of us, as opposed to going, oh, here you have you have this condition. use this frequency, it'll do it. Now, mind you, if you put the consciousness in, the belief, it's going to be helpful. But if you start having adverse reactions to it, and I've seen people have adverse reactions to specific frequencies or specific intervals, then I go, okay, that doesn't feel good for you. Stop doing it and find something that does. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm. Complete sense, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to pause for a moment, and as long as we're here, I'll do the fourth of the pillars of sound healing. The fourth is silence is golden. And that means that silence is very, very important. Silence is very, very powerful. And that, in fact, silence is the yin to the yang of sound. And silence is mandatory to work with, because if you are working with sound all the time, working with a frequency, if you keep moving and shifting these frequencies, then you don't give the sound the ability to set itself into the body and create the vibrational shift and change. So that, for example, if my wife Andi and I are teaching humming and we have people hum for 5 minutes, we have them be in silence for 5 minutes. Because that's really where the major shift and change happens. That's all of a sudden where the stuff, the real juice occurs in the silence.
It also makes me think about just giving space to ourselves, right? And when I want to resolve problems or move forward in different directions or whatever it might be, or challenges that arise, I never try and solve them these days. I just give myself space.
Well, here's one.
And it's the silence it comes from.
Yes, beautiful. Here's one. Did you know that the word listen and the word silent are anagrams? Same amount of letters. So if you're silent, you can listen within.
Oh, there you go. I did not know that.
I'm full of little witticisms. That came from my wife, Andi, actually.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, with all this in mind, then, when did you truly experience for your first time the true power of sound when it comes to, I don't know, revealing an aspect of yourself or healing or whatever it might be? Because I certainly had one. That's why I work with someone with sound
beautiful
now,
Beautiful guy. Yeah. I'm going to jump back to before I had that experience. Now it's storytelling time, okay?
Go for it.
I'm playing in a rock and roll band on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, United States. I strap on my Stratocaster, come back off of a break, and I start playing. And all of a sudden, I become aware that the ambiance in the club was one of negativity and violence. Now, Guy, I had been playing professionally since I was about 15. I was close to 30 years old at this time, and I'd never had that thought. And I became aware that, okay, a lot of this negativity and violence is the different intoxicants that people are imbibing in, the drugs and the alcohol and whatnot. But I realized that at the time, the music that I was creating at the time, this has nothing to do with anything to do with saying that rock and roll is bad or whatnot. But I was playing sort of a very negative oriented type of music, which is all that was happening. It was a great learning experience. And I thought, oh my goodness gracious, I had this thought. And I've been playing professionally now for about 15 years, and I've actually done some pretty well-known gigs. And I thought, gee, I wonder if music can be used to make people feel better. That's all. I'd never had that thought. Can music be used to make people feel better? In a week, that thought shifted maybe 5 or 10 degrees and became, gee, I wonder if sound can be used to heal. From there, within about a week, I got a sheet of paper that had a workshop on it about healing with sound. This is back around 1979, 1980, done by a woman named Sarah Benson. I went to this workshop. Sarah became one of my great teachers, initiators, and my wife and her became dear friends, and she actually is the godmother of my son. She's passed on to the higher planes, but we call her the godmother of sound healing. And what happened was she led me in an exercise. There were about 30 people in this workshop, and she led me in an exercise where I held a quartz crystal kind of like this, and I was sitting there, and the group of people were chanting my name, projecting an intentionality, and projecting a color. And all of a sudden, I went out of my body. I was in this crystal amethyst pyramid in the woods. When I came back to my body, I said, wow, I got to find out more about sound and more about crystals. And that was my first experience with sound, but certainly not my last.
Wow. Can you repeat what they did? So you had the quartz crystal. Was
Oh,
that
okay.
quartz?
This is actually in my very first book called Healing Sounds, which just got re-released in October, a 30th anniversary edition. And it's actually a great book talking about harmonics, talking about all sorts of things. It's probably the one that's got the most scientific information. And you know what? I didn't change a word of it. I wrote it 30 years ago, and there's nothing in it that has been changed or is not correct. Because, a frequency is a frequency, and a harmonic, which is a multiple of the frequency. And that's under a section called the Song of the Soul. And once again, and this was an exercise that I would do with almost every group that we have. You make a circle, put a person in the middle of the circle, usually put them on the ground, although they can be sitting, have them hold a crystal, usually on the heart, and then you have them say their name, an affirmation, and a color they would like to receive. Then have the group begin to slowly chant the person's name. Guy, Guy, Guy. 30 people chanting Guy, and all of a sudden it goes, Guy, Guy. All of a sudden it becomes an incredible sonic song of the soul that is unique and different for every person, and it is mind-blowing.
Wow.
And it's brilliant.
I have to try it. That sounds incredible.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
And especially for you to actually have that experience that is like, wow. Because here's the thing, right? This is where I get really excited about, because, we were talking about off air, and I was like kind of tinkering with the work, and then I had this experience, and you go, oh my God, like, it's almost like every nook and cranny belief system that you had that you didn't even realize was there kind of like starts to dissolve, and then you really start to allow the true self, the divine within you, to come through you. But I had no words or experiences or a language around it at the time or anything, and then
totally.
It's been slowly, and then I think, oh my God, if other people could just have one experience like this.
Right. And once you experience it, it's real. Because all the stuff that I'm talking about the power of sound, is simply mental plane thought forms. And then when you get zapped, it becomes real for you, and your life is changed.
Forever.
Now, I'm going to give you since and thank you for allowing me to, have the opportunity of presenting the Song of the Soul. I would like to suggest that it is way powerful. And that there are a couple things that you really want to do. First of all, at the end, after the voices of people have stopped, you want to basically allow a few minutes for the person to return to their body. Don't make them get up or they'll pitch right over again. That's first desire, is that they're, oh, that was great. And they get up and then, so don't let them sit there and have somebody there grounding them. Usually we have then people that will, maybe you or whomever, go into the circle, ground their feet, and just make sure that they're okay, because it can be very, very powerful. And as you begin the thing, first of all, set the field with intention, whether you do a prayer, whatever prayer that you like. I like to work with a being that I call Shamael. He's the angel of sacred sound. In Kabbalah, he is known as, which is a Hebrew mysticism, he's known as Metatron. But we ask that the sound of light surround us, the light of sound guide us, the sacred sound come through us for the harmony of all. So we put the intention there because it's really important. Set and setting. A lot of people are into working with psychotropics these days. That's wonderful. But the real key about that stuff is to make sure that the set and setting are really, really pristine and beautiful. Because if you're dealing with sacred vibrational shifting, and sound is, if you like, remember that most of the major magicians in ancient times were also musicians.
Wow.
Did you know that the word abracadabra, and you've heard of abracadabra, right, is actually an Aramaic term which means I will create when I make sound, or as I make sound, I will create. And there is an example of a word that, a magical term that just totally got demolished, because you can do that. You can almost make any sound sacred, or you can almost take any sacred sound and demolish it with intention. It became the brunt of a joke. Abracadabra, you pull something out of a hat and everybody would laugh. Poor abracadabra.
So tell me then, once you had that experience with, was it Sarah Benson? Is that
Yes, that's
correct?
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so you've gone into this workshop, you're playing as a musician, and you were starting to lean in about.
So played as a musician, made that decision to see, boy, I wonder if sound could be used for healing. From there, I basically have I'm given a piece of paper, go to the workshop, have my life turned upside down. And then there's a last part to this one, okay? I guess she sensed that there was something interesting about me, and she invited me to a gathering that night that was of different people who were really interested in using sound for healing. And I went to the gathering, and there were so many different people. You wouldn't necessarily know them, but for example, Dr. Randall McClellan, who was he taught the first college level course using sound for healing. And he has written a brilliant book that's really old, but got more information than most people would ever even consider, called The Healing Forces of Music. He was there. There were about 10 or 15 people. One of the people who I saw a couple of nights ago, named Robert Gass, who was one of the people who brought kirtans to the States. But they're there. I said, wow, this is great. This is the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. All these people sharing. They really knew. And Guy, I said, when's the next meeting? I said, this is the last one. I said, what do you mean it's the last one? They said, well, we can't do it. It's too much work, and just nobody wants to take it over. I said, I'm going to take it over, and I'm going to do it. And I did it. And the first thing I did, which was something that they hadn't done, is I gave it a name. And I called it the New England Sound Healers, which then became the Sound Healers Association. and it's still in existence. You can go to the soundhealersassociation.org, and it's a wonderful group of people that still exists. So I just wanted to suggest that that's what happened next for me. Then after that, I went to Lesley University, where I basically got a master's degree in using sound for healing. I took my record company, which was a new wave punk rock label, and I changed it to being a new age therapeutic music label. And the one thing I did not have to do, I didn't have to change the name of the record company, because strangely enough, the record company was called Spirit Music. And it still exists today. And, we've done Grammy nominations and all sorts of different, best-selling recordings and all that stuff. So that's been my thing. And got about a half a dozen books that are out there, including The Humming Effect, Healing Sound, Chakra Frequencies, The 7 Secrets of Sound Healing. So they're all good. Over 30 different recordings. And it's wonderful to see sound continue to blossom and grow to such a degree that I can say, people go, well, I'm into sound healing. I said, great. You know what sound healing was? When I suggested that I was into using sound for healing, people would go, what? Well, I know that music can be used to, calm people down. That was about as far as they went back then. And now it's very different.
Totally. Question for you then on that, because we've talked about sound and music. And this might be the oversimplified question, but I'm thinking, because obviously music is sound, but it's composed and, right?
Yeah, okay. So let me throw this at you first of all. Okay. I differentiate between sound and music. I think that as Julie Andrews told us in The Sound of Music, the hills are alive with the sound of music. But not all sound is musical. All music is sound, but not all sound is musical. And the reason I differentiated this is because when I got into healing sound, sometimes you get these frequencies. Here we go. That's a Tibetan deep voice. That's considered really sacred sound. Some people hear that and they freak out. So it's not, it might be the music of Tibet, but it is not necessarily musical in the Western terms. So I made that differentiation so that people might be experiencing now we have the term sound bath, and that's pretty new. That's about 5 or 10 years old. But before that, if you were to do things, and at the time it was weird, and people would go, what the heck is going on there? And, if they were expecting Mozart, which a lot of people might do, go, hey, no, we're talking about single tone frequencies or composite frequencies. I mean, now they call them sound baths. Now they call them this and that. At the time, people wouldn't know what to do with it, and they wouldn't have considered it music. Now, was that your question or not?
Yeah, well, yes, to a degree, because it was then like we go in for it. Like you used the term sound bath, so we kind of got this thinking anyway. Oh, I'm going to go and lay in a sound bath to receive healing. Okay,
right.
But then we can play music, and we just listen, and we do it our day. But can music have a healing effect? Then I guess I'm saying.
Well, surely. I mean, if I were to tell you that I have a gazillion different feedbacks from people who've experienced profound healing from listening to the music. And I think part of that is the fact that I use specific mantras, specific intervals, specific all sorts of different things. I put them together. One of the things that I learned was that sacred sounds could be used together. So from one of my first recordings that became really world famous called CHAKRA CHANTS, I used about a dozen different systems of sound healing, and I put them all together, and they worked. And, it was very, very incredible. So I'm very, very aware of sonic fields. And the more you're aware of creating fields of sound, part of it is through the sound, part of it is through the invocation and, if you like, asking these different spirits and beings to come on to the sound. Because you know what? They're happy to do that. But if you don't, they won't necessarily. And in fact, you can take a mantra. A mantra is great. But if you want to empower the mantra more, you ask the deity or the being to come on to the mantra, and you become aware of who and what the mantra is about. A very simple technique that I oftentimes share all the time when working with either music or sound, just to really encode it with positive energy. I don't know if you've ever heard of Heart Math, but they're a wonderful organization, and they have a technique which simply, I think it's called the heart lock. But what it is, you start breathing slowly, then you basically, as you're breathing in, you breathe in and out through your heart at the same time, and then you add the element of gratitude and appreciation. And what happens then is the electromagnetic field of the heart and the brain get into a state of coherence together, and the electromagnetic field grows from anywhere from 50 to 500 to even 5,000 times greater. And then there's a missing ingredient, and I'm just having to say that this is I have not researched it because I'm not into doing research. Somebody will. And once again, I love the fact that oftentimes I'll have been teaching something for 10 or 15 years, and then they go, hey, this has been proven. But you're going to find that there is a reason why the basic prayers on our planet are vocalized, whispered, chanted, spoken, or sung. And that is because sound amplifies the power of prayer. It amplifies and helps focus the power of prayer. So if you have this heart-brain coherence and then you add sound to it, it becomes even greater.
I'm going to ask you a question then. What sound would you, if you're doing heart coherence daily, which is I do every morning, I spent 40 minutes this morning. But what sound would you then add to that?
Great. I do a sound satsang with my wife, Andi, once a month, and people are invited to. I have a Jonathan Goldman official YouTube channel, so we've done 10 so far, and part of it, we have a 10-minute guided global sound meditation that people do. And we work with usually, like the last one that we did, we worked with the hum, doing the heart-brain coherence and then the hum. Another great sound is the om, which is very close to the hum, but not the same. And then the ah sound. The ah sound, we have for the last 21 years on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, at least here in the United States, we have an event called World Sound Healing Day, which takes place throughout the planet. People from Australia are big into doing it, certain people. And basically, when I first came up with this idea, it was the idea of sending a sonic Valentine to the Gaia Matrix, our Mother Earth. And basically, the sound we used was the ah sound. Because if you think about it, number one, there are certain vowel sounds that resonate the different chakras, and the ah and the ah is a sound, and whether the different god and goddess names, most of them have ah in it. Tara, Buddha, Yeshua, Krishna. Ah, it's a sound. We really like something. We go, ah. So that is a real good sound to work with. Or you can work with the hum. They feel a little different, and it's whatever you resonate with. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Yeah, play with it. Yeah.
It says make a joyful noise. Fun, joy, hey, yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And as we move towards the end of the podcast, Jonathan, a couple of questions. I'm curious to know, what projects do you have on the go at the moment? You talked about the YouTube channel. Are you writing any books? You're creating more music? Are you out there doing workshops? Like,
All of the above. One of the things I'm getting back to doing is re-releasing a book of mine called The Divine Name that I don't know if you ever heard of Gregg Braden.
I've interviewed Greg a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, Greg did the introduction to it, and it's a really sacred, vowel-oriented sound that is brilliant and universal. And it was released, and I got the rights back, and I want to just re-release it myself. So that's one thing that I'm working on. And boy, where to begin? I don't know. Just we're doing our sound songs, always with more music, always this and that, because it's just great. So if and I'm here to be an elder of sound. A lot of folks think, oh, I'm going to do stuff, and they end up reinventing the wheel or doing stuff that's going to take them into a direction. So I'm really here to, if you like, assist my wife Andi and I. That's what's going on.
Beautiful.
One of the
Beautiful.
things.
Yeah. And can you say your website out loud as well? There will be
Right.
links in the show notes.
Great. But it's healingsounds.com. Healing Sounds with an S at the end.com. And we've got all sorts of really, it's an award-winning website, as a matter of fact. It won the Visionary Award for Best Website. And it's got just all sorts of free stuff on it, all sorts of interviews, articles, downloads, etc. As well as if people want to get different tools, whether they're tuning forks or whatnot, or books or musical downloads, etc. But it's a really great website that I think people will really enjoy. And we have some also online courses that are fabulous, including one by one of the great Tibetan monks, Lama Tashi, who is the Dalai Lama's favorite chant master, doing a online course on Tibetan secrets of happiness, which is
Wow.
way cool. So I invite people to visit healingsounds.com.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I have one question for you to wrap it up, which I ask everyone on the show, Jonathan, and that is, everything we've covered today, which has been a lot. What would you like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
Oh, wow. To ponder on. That's one I haven't thought of. And the first thing that always comes in my mind is the fact that compassion is so very, very important in terms of our being compassionate with ourselves and being compassionate with each other. And in fact, one of our most frequent teachings is on using sound with compassion, which is why oftentimes we'll bring in the heart math thing. So as a final concept of that, it's like, how can you best generate compassion, kindness, love to yourself and to others? Because I will just tell you that if we can do that, if we can be kind and compassionate to each other, we can then begin to work together. 1 + 1 = 3, and we can change our planet and all the beings on it.
What a beautiful place to end the podcast. Jonathan, thank you so much. I can't believe it's taken me this long to reach out to you, mate. I'm so happy you came on and shared it today. Thank you so much. And I will certainly be looking much deeper into your work moving forward. I really appreciate everything you do for us.
And Guy, you keep up your work with sound, because you know what? It's only just begun.
Totally. Thank you.